Welcome everybody to this school board meeting, regular meeting and public hearing of September 19th. Please rise to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. That's going to bring us to our recognitions, and Mr. Mike Barber is going to start us off with that. And Elena Garcia, I see coming down the aisle.
All right, we have some special guests this evening. Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Green. Will you all come and stand right down here? Just kind of line up right here. That's good. Lena, how about if you stand at this end?
Okay.
Okay, as I said, we're very fortunate tonight to have some very special guests, and I'm going to tell you why. September 15th through October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month. This time is set aside to recognize and honor the many contributions, history, and culture of Hispanic and Latino Americans to the United States of America, the state of Florida, and to Manatee County. It is fitting that the School Board of Manatee County recognize Hispanic Heritage Month, since 33% of our student population is of Hispanic or Latino heritage. We have some special guests. I'm going to let them each introduce themselves, and they will introduce their position in the district. We have someone here to represent our employees. We have a representative of each of our 6 traditional high schools and a representative from Manatee Technical College. So, Elena, if you'll start off.
I'm Elena Garcia. I'm the Director of Federal Programs and Grants. And I'd like to ask my staff members who came to also receive this proclamation to go ahead and stand up and be recognized.
Hello, I am Cadet John De Salvador. I am the S3 of the Southeast High School Summit Battalion. I am thankful for being here. Thank you for having me here. After high school, I plan to attending USF and graduating with a degree of accounting.
Hello, everyone. I'm very thankful to be here. Thank you. You're amazing. All right. My post-secondary education plans are to hopefully attend USF in Tampa or FGCU to pursue a career in nursing, in my bachelor's degree in nursing, and then a master's degree in healthcare administration, with the ultimate goal of owning my own non-for-profit nursing home for young adults.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisette Elenice. I am currently a student at Palmetto High School, but I am doing the dual enrollment at SCF. And my future plans are to hopefully attend UF or USF for the pre-dental, and then from there transfer to LECOM for medical school, dentistry school, and then hopefully pursue my career in dentistry.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Jonathan Montiano. I am a junior at Manatee High School. I take part in the academics team at Manatee High School. I am in the marching band of the high school. I am the take stock with Mr. Kennedy as my mentor. Thank you for that. My plan after high school is to go to college and probably attend FSU, UF, or Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and pursue a forensics field like career or accounting.
Hello, my name is Ulysses Sanchez Martinez. I'm here representing Manatee Technical College. I'm in the GED prep program. My post, what I want to do after I get my GED is go to the main campus, work on my work on culinary, entrepreneurship, and later on open my own restaurant.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniela Gonzalez. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm currently a sophomore at Braden River High School. After I graduate high school, I hope to attend FSU and earn a degree in forensic science and then pursue a job as a forensic crime analyst. And thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Giselle Daniel. I am a senior at Lake Orange High School. I am currently going to MTC. I am doing accounting. I want to do medical office specialist right after, and I plan to do the Marines later on in the future and do something in the medical field as well.
Thank you. We do have a proclamation. Are you going to?
Yeah, I'm going to start it. I'm going to, Jonathan doesn't know I'm going to do this to him, but I'm going to start the proclamation, and then I'm going to pass it over to him, and he can finish it down there. This is our proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month. So you got a minute to prepare yourself. Get ready. Whereas during National Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the contributions made by Hispanic and Latino Americans in the United States and celebrate their culture and heritage. And whereas Hispanic Americans have had a profound and positive influence on our country through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and community service. They have enriched and shaped our national character with centuries-old traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their proud history. And whereas generations of Latino Americans have served in America's armed forces to defend liberty and advance democracy around the world, and whereas Hispanic Americans have worked to overcome many challenges, often in the face of discrimination and prejudice, and have successfully embraced the opportunities of the American dream. And this is where Jonathan takes over. No, thank you. He's going to kill me when I see him at lunch this week.
Okay, that's 3. Whereas together we recognize the Latino community in Manatee County whose love of family, strong work ethic, and willingness to share their heritage and traditions have made our country a better place to live. Whereas nationally, September 15th to October 15th in the focal point of recognizing and celebrating the many achievements of Latino Americans and applauding their proud legacy of service and dedication to this country. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the School Board of Manatee County that the month of September 15th through October 15th, 2017 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Hispanic Heritage Month. Adopted with a quorum present and voting this 19th day of September 2017.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you very much. What great representatives to have for Hispanic Heritage Month. What I'm going to ask you all to do is if you could come and line up in front of the school board, we're going to get a photo of you all. And before we do that, I know we have some parents here. Parents, if you would stand up, please. I should have said parents and family members because I know there's family members here. Also, we have some administrators from the schools. If you would just raise your hand or stand up. Right in front of the school board here. I'm going to get a photo of y'all. And parents, feel free to get photos. You guys move over this way, the students. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much.
See you on Thursday.
Give it to him when he shows up. Just give it to him.
I just wanted to add, before we moved on, that many of our schools will be hosting Hispanic Heritage Month festivals this year. A few had to cancel, of course, because of the hurricane, and a few haven't decided on their dates yet. But I did want to share 4 dates with you. Bashaw Elementary, October 5th. Sugg Middle School, October 12th. Southeast High School, October 19th. And Lee Middle School, October 20th.
Elena, will you just will you put that in the email?
That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Email it to all of them.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elena.
Got it.
And by the way, y'all are free to leave.
Oh, no, make them stay. Make them stay.
This, you know,
Go do your homework.
we don't want to put a damper on the month right away. No, I'm kidding.
They need to know how the system works.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, we're going to move into our second recognition for this evening. It has to do with hashtag We Manatee, and hashtag We Manatee is short for We Are the School District of Manatee County. It's a program designed to promote a sense of pride and unity of purpose among the school district employees as well as the school district and our community. And it strives to accomplish those goals by providing videos and print stories about people who have a positive impact on our schools, as well as those people who have been positively impacted by our schools. Perhaps no single event in any of our memories embodies the bond between our community and our school district more than what transpired during Hurricane Irma. Working closely together with local emergency management officials, law enforcement, and the National Guard, school district employees in our schools provided 24 separate ports in a storm. To that end, we would like to share the following hashtag We Manatee video being seen publicly for the first time this evening. So if we could show that video.
Shelters are filling up to capacity on the Sun Coast, and residents can breathe a sigh of relief knowing they're in a safe place.
We opened 24 shelters. We served over 25,000 evacuees, and we lovingly call them our guests.
But if 1,000 of you want to come, we will turn no one away.
With all 24 of Manatee County's shelters filling up, Manatee opened a 25th. People still looking to get to safety.
And today, crews are busy getting classrooms back in order so the classes can resume on Monday.
I'm here today to help teachers reset up their classrooms and do whatever the school needs after being used as a shelter.
today we've been able to prioritize some custodial staff at non-shelter school sites into the sites that were shelters, and that's huge.
Thank you. I want to say a special thanks to Melissa Parker from our communications office. This is Melissa right here, and also Matt Messenger of MSTV. They did an amazing job
can breathe a
putting
sigh
that
of
video
relief
together.
knowing they're in a safe place.
Hearing the video again. Either that or I'm hallucinating. But anyway, they did an amazing job, and it was one of those experiences where you really had to be there to, I don't know if appreciated is the word, but to know exactly what went on. So I'd like to ask if there's anybody here who served in a shelter or, helped with the cleanup, if you could please stand up. So. We'll all have those memories for a long time, but that's it, Mr. Chair.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Barber. I'm sure superintendent comments and board comments will have plenty more to talk about when it comes to our shelters and our admins and staff.
Mr. Sheriff,
Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Chairman, can we at this time honor our superintendent, for leading all of this? And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of school district employees involved with making this a successful effort, and others from volunteers from the community. It was an amazingly huge task, and an amazingly huge task that was carried out successfully, through the leadership of Dr. Green. And I'm going to just relate one incident. When I was at Manatee High School, the Saturday before the storm came through, there was an elderly lady driving a brown Cadillac who could not park her car, and someone came out and got in her car, and parked the car for this lady. And this kind of valet service you don't get everywhere. Well, the lady who came out and parked this elderly lady's car was our very own, our very wonderful, superintendent, Dr. Green. And I think we all ought to stand up and give her a big applause. Yes. Yeah.
Of course.
Mr. Minor, thank you. But the real heroes are our administrators who were managing those shelters. To be in front of them, and 95% of them raised their hand and said they've never done shelter duty, and to know that they took that 2-hour training or the information we gave them, and they went out into those schools, and they just did it. Normally, we only have 3 shelter places for pets. By the end of that storm, every school had turned into a pet-friendly shelter, and for some of them, that was definitely taking them out their comfort zone. And you saw the picture of the rooster. We had a goat. We had we had all we had a hedgehog. We had ferret. We had every animal that if they could get it in a cage, it was brought to the shelter. And there came a time that there were some without cages. And our administrators rose to the occasion. Our teachers volunteered. The food service and custodial, they were like superheroes. they were wearing those invisible S's on their chests, and this really was not about me. It was about me being with a great administrative team and getting in there to do what needed to be done. And I'm just very proud that we didn't let our community down. We opened the doors, said come, and when it got to the point that we said, I know you're full, but keep taking them, they did it. And we had schools that lost power. Lakewood Ranch, where Mr. Hopes and I were, we lost power, and our guests just made the best of it, and our administrators made the best of it. And it was, one of our principals said, it was the most inspirational, exhilarating, horrific event I had ever been through. And he was right. There was inspiration, but that fear in those individuals was real, and our administrators could not show any fear. Because if they did, then the people wouldn't have felt safe in the shelter. And they didn't show any fear. And really, I know you're standing for me, but I hope that standing is really more for our administrators. And truly, I just could not say enough words about what they did, because they were scared, but they did it. And that's what real courage is. And they showed real courage by being in those shelters for many of them 4 straight days.
Away from their families.
Away from their families. And, I'm just proud to know that I was able to be a part of the whole. And Ms. Saunders and Mr. Serrana, we all stayed out there 4 straight days, and we just couldn't leave them. And they were standing there, and we were just standing with them. So the applause really should just be for the entire administrative staff of this school district.
Well, thank you, Mr. Minor, for that interlude. That was time well spent. That's going to bring us to approval of the agenda. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under agenda amendments on the September 19th agenda, updated September 18th, 2017, and posted to the district website, manateeschools.net. Board colleagues, I do have one item I would like to move before we approve the agenda. The new business approval of the TAN, the tax anticipation note. I would like to move that to just after the public hearing. And then that way we'll do the tax anticipation note. We'll take a brief recess so Dr. Green and I can sign the documents required for that, and then we'll come back with the consent agenda. Mr. Kwon?
I will be recusing myself from the
That's fine.
discussion and the tax anticipation notes.
No problem. We'll take care of that
Okay.
when we get to it. Yep. Thank you for that. Okay. Any objections to my suggestion?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay. Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0 shortly. Oops, that was me. I forgot. Mr. Minor? You're a yes, correct?
Yes.
Can you press the green button? All right. And Mr. Colon, I'm going to pass it over to you for public comment, please.
Okay. This is our usual public comment section. Since all the people that are speaking are familiar with it, the rules and the regs regarding it, Mr. Jim Bellina, my favorite politically incorrect person. Nice T-shirt.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Giblina,
Good evening.
Manatee County taxpayer and advocate. Now, I have 2 comment cards filled out. Which one is this for?
This is for the public comment. I didn't get any.
On the contract or just the public comment?
Just the public comment. Do we have something for?
Yes, Mr. Bellina has also signed to speak on the consent agenda item number 15 regarding North County High School.
Okay. Well, when we get to that, we'll clue you in.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, fine. Then I'll wait till then. I want to commend the school board for the fine job on the evacuation, but there's a number that keeps popping back to my head. It's 92%. 92% of the citizens of this county did not qualify for those shelters. We have 325,000 people You were at full capacity at 25 schools, 25,000. Where were the other 305,000 people going to go? Hopefully, they'll be able to go to the 3 new schools that we're building. But apparently, that has not been the case. Transparency and accountability to the citizens of this county is a must. We should accept no less. At that Board of County Commissioners meeting on the high school was a fiasco. The board was kept in the dark for hours on a simple request by Commissioner Smith. Are the schools up to standard to be a shelter? It was a simple question. You kept moving the dots around and evading the question, and Ms. Petriff finally came out and said, well, we're exempt. We don't have to build them to hurricane shelters. Do you really think that the folks of this county would have passed that half-cent sales tax if they would have known at that time, hey, by the way, we're going to take $150 million and we're going to build 3 new schools, and guess what? When a hurricane comes through, they're not going to be able to go there because we didn't build it to shelter standards. That's unacceptable. I'm not gonna accept that. When my tax bill comes, here's my tax bill. I'm gonna scratch out everything that the school board's got coming from my tax rolls, and I'm not gonna pay this bill because you have a moral and ethical obligation to keep our community safe, and you're not doing that. $150 million. All I'm asking is to go back and sharpen your pencil, and let's get it done. And certainly open communication with the Board of County Commissioners should have not been sucker punched at the meeting. I don't know who's communicating with them, but I have better communication with this board and them about the new schools than you guys have between each other. Between the 2 places, you're at $1.4 billion of taxpayers' money. You think you'd be collaborating and communicating between each other. So, and I'll talk about the item when my next public comment is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could Mr. Serrano have the opportunity to respond to those remarks?
It's not really our protocol to respond to public comment.
I understand that, but there are some claims that were made that I think beg for a response.
Okay. Mr. Serrano, would you mind?
No, not at all. Certainly the district administrative staff and the county staff do work collaboratively regarding this issue. Secondly, when people say our schools aren't safe, our schools are built to the building codes that are in place by the state, and all the buildings that have been built after 2003 do comply with hurricane standards. So they are safe buildings. I'd rather be in any of those buildings than my apartment. So they can withstand winds up to Category 5. In addition to that, we are looking at additional ways to fund the improvements in a school that would classify it as a shelter, which runs around 7 to 10% extra in it. But in addition to that, there's also statutes in place that we comply with as far as when a shelter is necessitated for a county. And at this point, we have more shelters than are needed. In addition, the county does not have any shelters. All the shelters in the county of Manatee are public schools. And so we are looking for assistance, financial assistance, if the county does want to step up and partner with that. We're also looking, the school board is looking for additional revenue as part of their legislative platform, because this is a state issue. It's not just a local issue. We don't just house people from Manatee County. We house people from over the entire state of Florida in situations like this. We just covered a lot of this information in the workshop, so I ask you to view the workshop that we just had today that covers this, and we went into a lot more detail in that particular area. And if the superintendent or anyone else wants to add to that, feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, no, I thought that was a good update. Mr. Clark?
I would say one thing to Mr. Gimbolina. Our schools may not be hurricane shelters, but they are hurricane resistant by bringing them up to the wind standards. All of the schools, don't have the excess. They require certain extra things like offices for hurricane people, like a command center, extra parking. These things we don't have. But as far as being safe during a hurricane, they're very safe. And they are wind resistant to 150, 145, I believe it is.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, next public comment.
Next would be Mr. Jones, President of the NAACP.
Greetings.
Good evening.
Chairman Kennedy, board members, Dr. Green, and staff. I am not speaking for an organization. I'm here as Rodney Jones, a citizen exercising my First Amendment right of the Constitution of freedom of speech. I just wanted to comment on the August 12th board proceedings. Disappointing. This board had, and this school district has gone through quite a time over the last few years, especially during our budget issues that we had a few years back, where every board meeting was like a three-ring circus. It was a huge distraction. We had actually got away from the business of educating students and taking care of teachers, and we had just turned it into a three-ring circus. And I saw a slight drift back to that on the August 12th board meeting as it related to the approval of the conversion charter for Lincoln Memorial Middle School. Just was really disappointed in some of the board members' behavior. I felt some of the behavior was very low class, cutting people off when they're talking, making, what could be considered very derogatory comments. I'm not sure what has got, I'm all for financial stewardship. I think we all are, whether it be in business, whether it be in school districts, whether it be in our own homes. I think we all have our own brand of that. We do appreciate those that did their homework ahead of time, took the time when the application was actually turned in to vet it, went to visit the school, asked all the questions ahead of time, and then did not come to the meeting when it was time for the vote, when all of those questions should have been asked before time. And I was just extremely disappointed in the behavior of the board. And I'm glad Mr. Kennedy, had the wisdom to somewhat reel it in, because it was very disappointing. It was more disappointing for me being an African American. This has nothing to do with any race card or anything like that, but this is the first time that we've had a minority group step up to the plate to do something like that. And when you have that many people that showed up and that many people left out of here feeling that they were dismissed, that they were disrespected, regardless of what you think, you have to give that some credence. Now, whether that's an issue of cultural sensitivity or whether that's an issue of cultural competence, I'm not sure. But our board has a long ways to go. If we're going to behave that way with good teachers and good administrators, Mr. Hundley is a proven administrator here in Manatee County, has taken on some of the toughest assignments and has excelled, including last year raising that school when most thought that he would not be able to do it. He raised it one letter grade, and I think he was the only Title I school in the county that's still open to do so. And it was just disappointing. It was a disappointment to, I think, everyone. Not just people that look like me. There were a lot of people that were pushed back by it, even to the point where their board attendance would play a role in the vote of the charter. That was unprecedented. That had never even been brought up before. And I don't believe that was a part of the criteria for voting, or that would lead to a yes or no vote, whether their board members are there. So it was almost like we were digging. Just disappointed.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hundley? Ed? Next.
I'm an organization.
You have to ask in advance.
Okay, then I need 3. Thank you for the continued cooperation, Mr. Clone.
Hey,
I want to say
all you
hello.
had to do is ask in advance.
Hello. No problem. I just wanted to say hello to everyone. While I appreciate everything Mr. Jones said, I was raised and trained to write my own narrative, and that's what I'm here to do. I want to first say to everyone up here and to all of my colleagues in the district that I've worked with for 17 plus years, that this event does not change anything if what we're about is real, and that's student success. I've been an advocate for students and working with students since I've been here, and that's been unwavering. I've been more than just an employee. I've actually had great relationships with every superintendent that's been here with me, no more than with Dr. Green. I'd have to say I've had the closest relationship. And so this storm of this process is upon us. And you can either run from the storm and spend twice as much time in it, or go straight at it, and you'll be out the other side in half the time. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm here to publicly say there is no dissension between me and the Manatee County Schools, because I actually work for Manatee County Public Schools. I serve students from Manatee County Public Schools, and efforts to better help students of Manatee charter schools through a public charter does not make me any less of an advocate for kids. I'm speaking my own narrative. People are concerned. They're reading things, they're hearing things. Anything that starts with and ends with money is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about students. People are talking about money. First, we weren't going to have enough money. Now we have too much money because we don't pay for the school. Not once are we talking about student achievement and programs. That's what I'm about. So I'm publicly saying the narrative for Ed Hunley and the narrative for Lincoln Memorial Academy is that we will be a public charter school, part of Manatee County Public Schools, who, when we do well, the district does well. No more conversations about if and when and how. It's done. And I just want to make sure everybody understands from me, and my voice is cracking because I am passionate about this. We are working to give kids more. And the statement made that the board members who voted yes threw their hands up and gave up, I say you got on your feet and you stood up and you did what was right for kids. So this is my official last statement about anything regarding Lincoln Memorial Academy other than what we plan to do for kids. And if the response is we're going to spend a bunch of money to make sure those other schools are so good nobody wants to come to Lincoln, well, then my scope of influence has increased and we helped even more kids. To that I say amen and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunley.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public comments for now.
Okay. That is going to bring us to our public hearing. I'm going to briefly close our regular meeting, and that gavel is going to open our public hearing. And this public hearing is for consideration of adopting an amendment to the student progression, our student proper name, progression plan. Thank you. All right. We have. I don't believe we have any public comment, please. Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion?
I don't have any public comment for the public hearing.
Oh, this is true. But go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Dr.
I recommend approval of adopting an amendment to the student progression policy for elementary school, middle school, high school, and K-12 virtual education.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Minor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Messenger. Any comments, board members? Seeing none, let's go to the vote. All those in favor of approving the student progression plan signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And press your green button. Motion passes 5-0. That is going to bring us to the item that I moved, which, oh, wait, I have to close the hearing. I'll call myself. Thank you, Dr. Green. That closes our public hearing, and this reopens our regular meeting. Now we can get to the TAN. Dr. Green?
I recommend approval. Sorry, I went to the wrong one. Sorry. I recommend approval of resolution to enter into section 1011.13, Florida Statutes Loan Tax Anticipation Note, known as the TAN, Series 2017.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Meyer.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Messenger. Thank you both. Board members, Mr. Clone, I know you have something to address real quick.
Yeah, I will be abstaining from this vote as it concerns bond issuance, and since I'm in the financial industry, I don't want to talk about or be involved in any vote that could affect business to the financial industry, since I get compensated through them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clone. Board members, any comments or questions on the Mrs. Messenger.
I have one comment.
Sure.
Just a statement that I'd like to say.
Sure.
So, and this was something that got brought up at the board briefing, and I just want to point it out that if we were in a stronger financial position with a higher fund balance, this amount of money may be able to be reduced in the future. And it's just, I wanted to point out that if we had more of that to start off with in the beginning, then we perhaps would not have to take out such a large amount of money right now, just to get by until we get paid from the state. That's it.
All right. Good setup for later, perhaps?
I'm just saying.
Okay. Board members, any further comments? Thank you for that, Gina. Okay, seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor, let me make sure I say this right, of approval, all those in favor of approval of the Tax Anticipation Note Series 2017, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And press your green button. Motion passes 4-0. It's adopted. Okay. We are going to take I'll be realistic, and let's say 10 minutes. We'll be back in 10 minutes. So we are on recess for 10.
Why are you recessing?
You can sign the.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to go to the consent agenda. Mr. Gibolina, you had a comment to make about one of our consent items. So,
15.
Come on down.
Again, for the record, Glenn Gibolina, taxpayer activist, Manatee County. So, one of the items was a contract with Ganab Building Company for $10,290,000. So, I wrote that company, as I am going to write all the subcontractors that have anything to do with New River High School, and asked them to check their moral compass and why would they want to work on a project that's not designed to be a shelter. So that's my little civil disobedience that I'm going to be doing to all of them, and perhaps I'll get some type of response. The second thing I want to say is this school is a year ahead of its time. The roads are not going to be done. The infrastructure is not going to be there. You're going to be cutting through backyards to get to the school. I don't know why you just don't put it off a year, let the county get the Fort Hammer Road bridge, which, by the way, I saw you pulled from the agenda. I don't know why you're putting the cart in front of the horse. That makes no sense to this taxpayer, and it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a real mess. Santec, I reached out to them. I asked them if they had any interns from MTC or any of the high schools, any student input on the design of that new high school. I've yet to hear a response, but I think I know the answer. I don't think they reached out at all. I think they're a great company. They're huge, and they don't need any public input, and they don't need any help. Well, I don't want my taxpayers' dollars being spent that way. I think they should have reached out to the students, say, what do you want to see in a school, and have them involved. They should have some interns. They're a big company. They could have some interns working there over the summer or this summer. They haven't done that. They think they're above that. Well, I have a problem with that. You know, I would like to get a legal opinion from the legal department to see that if a hurricane does come through, and one is coming through, if you can legally say this is going to be a hurricane-proof building, you're welcome to come in, but it's not a shelter. So I mean, we're putting lives at risk for what, 7 to 10%? That should have been built into the budget way before this conversation ever got this far as I'm concerned. And I think, again, I'm going to bring it up again, that little loophole that we're exempt and we're built to building codes, but not to shelter codes. It's a big difference, John, at least to this citizen. And there are going to be 300,000 people that don't have no place to go. They're not going to go north again. I can guarantee you that. And shame on Manatee County for not having any buildings. And I'll go ahead and speak to them on that point. So I would just like this board to reconsider increasing the standards and having the roads done before we start dragging buses in.
Thanks, Glenn.
Okay. Is that our only comment?
That's it.
Okay, thanks. All right. Board members, any comments or questions on any of our consent items tonight? Okay. Hearing none, let's vote. Oh, sorry. After Dr. Ream makes a recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I recommend approval of the consent agenda for September 19th, 2017.
Mr. Minor?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Messenger. Thank you very much. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And press your green button. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Thank you. That's going to bring us to a couple of items of old business. And items 1 and 2, well, let me do these one at a time. These are items 1 and 2. We have had multiple discussions previously, so I would like to keep these as short as we possibly can because, well, let me go with the first one. This is our conversation about joining I believe, 15 counties that are currently signed up to join together in litigation to challenge the constitutionality of House Bill 7069. I guess I'll start this off. I am in favor of us joining. I would like us to contribute $6,000 to the effort. As I said last time, I have, and I won't repeat myself, I'll just big picture this. I have a lot of problems with, there are good things in House Bill 7069, but they are far outweighed by the bad things in 7069. And by this board joining and becoming what I believe is the 16th board to join, it's kind of a symbolic measure to show the Florida legislature that school boards are rising up together to defend public schools. So I'm in favor of joining. It's a pretty small investment. We could take it out of the school board legal budget, our cost center, the 5 of us. And it's a small amount to potentially get a large return. And as I've said before, hopefully we'll see some help in September when the legislature comes back to meet. And maybe these things will be remedied, in which case we could withdraw from the suit if some of the problems are not taken care of. So I will turn it over to you, board members. Anybody care to chime in before we vote?
Sure.
Messenger?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
So, I actually think to vote for this would almost be hypocrisy, because in the consent agenda, we just voted to basically utilize this bill to get several $1 million. I don't like a lot of things about the bill. We've discussed that at length. Like you said, there's no point in rehashing all of that. I guess I still don't understand the added benefit of giving tax dollars to this lawsuit, when I really do hope that things are fixed in the next session. And if they're not, then perhaps then I'd be willing to revisit this. But for me right now, I really can't see joining this. And I don't see how I don't see how we necessarily benefit. And I know it's not a large sum of money. I recognize that. And the next thing we're going to talk about is a much larger sum of money. And so I understand that. It's more the fact that I don't see the direct benefit to us giving money versus us voicing concern at this point. And perhaps after the session, maybe I'd feel differently. So I'm a no right now.
No, that's fine. Thanks. Mr. Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support, and I'll make a motion, that the board, support the lawsuit, which is not becoming a party, but to support the lawsuit that, there hadn't been filed, but the idea of the lawsuit. And, for the 6,000, I think the last time we went about this, I had suggested, 5,000, 6,000 is fine with me. Most of the districts that have said they're going to be part of the lawsuit have anteed up, said we're in for 25,000. I do this for many reasons. One is I haven't had a report, from two of our colleagues of their attempts to, talk with members of the legislature to get them to come forward and say, listen, you're right. We do need to make, some changes, and we will be filing amendments to the to correct what is wrong, with 7069. I haven't heard that from any legislators who supported it. I sent letters to 3 of the representatives of our district, Senator Galvano, Representative Boyd, Representative Gruters. Senator Galvano was kind enough to meet with me for actually about 45 minutes. And we discussed it. He expressed that he supported it. He was glad that he voted for it. I told him my concern about the idea of using, public money to go to what are public schools that could be used for private purposes, and the money would not be used to buy property that would be public. It's taking public money and basically making it available, for private interests. And he wasn't, sensitive to that concern, yet he was not willing to join in any efforts to find amendments to provide a cure. The Representative Boyd never did allow, for even 15 minutes or half an hour or even 5 minutes for me to talk with him about the concerns that we had discussed here at this board. I did receive a message from one of his aides about what I would be talking about. I had said, 7069, and I focused it on the fact of, money being taken away from traditional public schools for use in things like, well, Mr. Gibolina talked about the need for shelters. And I said I would like to know what Representative Boyd was told would be the amount of diversion from public schools, statewide. I'd like to know maybe over a 5-year period or 10-year period if the law were not changed. I never got any response. None whatsoever. Representative Gruters, I never received any response to my request from his office at all. Now, that doesn't suggest to me that our legislators who read the papers, who know our concerns, are willing to say, okay, at least let's sit down and really talk about how we can make this better. And that means, well, if we believe, and I think all of us expressed concerns about how 7069 was put together, if we believe in that, then I think that to get and we believe that the legislature should adopt amendments to this legislation. I think the better way to get their attention is to at least support the litigation that reflects our concerns. I say not be a party because by not being a party, we're not subject to our attorneys expending time responding to discovery and running up attorney fees. That's one reason. And two, by saying we're going to contribute, we're sort of morally picking up the megaphone and saying, we're with you guys, but we're hesitant about joining all 17 of you and the growing number of school districts who say, this is just so bad, for public education, for the state of Florida, for our districts. And so that's where I'm coming from. I think the big issue about 7069 is that it's the most fiscally irresponsible piece of legislation to come out of Tallahassee in my memory and probably in history. That we have a governor, we have a state house, we have a Senate, all Republicans who pose themselves as fiscally responsible, yet none of our elected officials have been able to tell me how much is it really going to cost traditional public schools over 5 years or 10 years. They didn't even ask, and they don't know now. And to take money away and not really know the fiscal impact is fiscally irresponsible. And we're talking about not a couple $100, a couple $100,000, or just a few million. Over 20 years, it might be, I can't tell you with accuracy, it might be $20 billion that's being taken away from traditional public schools for important things to every community, be it hurricane shelters, be it providing gymnasiums in elementary schools, or all sorts of things. It's being taken away, and charter schools don't even have to show a need for getting the money. They have, for us to expend capital funds, and this is from the 1.5 mils, we have to show a need, and it has to be approved by the state, and we're responsible to the public. And what we build belongs to the public. It's not true with the money that's diverted for charter schools under the law. If that doesn't need changing, if we can't convince by sitting down and being open to discussion with our legislators, so be it. The courts need to tell them that this is bad legislation, unconstitutional. Try it again sometime if you're not going to make an amendment and clean up your act. If you make a mistake, it's important to make the changes, apologize, and then go on. And we haven't had that from our legislator. So that's where I come from. I hope this board would, at least in a non-party basis, say we support the objects of this lawsuit and are willing to allocate $6,000 as the chair has suggested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. Mr. Hopes and Mr. Cohen?
Go ahead, Mr. Hopes.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I would stand with Mrs. Messenger, I'm sorry, in that I don't think it's a good idea to expend taxpayer dollars in a frivolous lawsuit, and I think it is frivolous. I don't think it's going to change anything. I think that if people want to sue that much and they want to spend money, let them get their checkbooks out. but spending taxpayer dollars is not the way to go. Now, I have met with Representative who hasn't been mentioned, Wingate Newton, who represents 4 different counties, has one of the largest districts. He represents Hillsborough, Pinellas, Sarasota, and Manatee County. He has a gerrymandered district that hits 4 counties. And he is very supportive of filing bills if we have a specific bill that we want to file. And I have already spoken to him and his staff about it. Representative Gruters is also supportive if we have a specific bill we want filed. See, the key is someone has to come up with the bill that they want to file and what specifically they want to change. People don't like something and they want the whole bill scrapped. It's not going to happen. But what you can do is in the next session, make specific requests from your legislatures. And they can then file a bill to alter a piece of that legislation. And that's the way the process works. The governor does not propose that legislation. That's done by the representatives. Then he can either sign it or not sign it, depending on what the situation is. But I will not support spending our taxpayer dollars in a lawsuit that I don't think is going to go anywhere. I think our efforts need to be spent telling our representatives exactly what we want to change and then holding their feet to the fire to get that done. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Colon. You know, colleagues, we have discussed this in great detail, and there are components of this ombudsman bill that you know certainly have unintended consequences, and we have had discussions individually with members of both parties. But you know, Mrs. Messenger brings up a point. We have identified an area where initially the Schools of Hope funding in that bill looked pretty exclusive of or excluding us. And we have schools that are eligible for those funds. And we indeed have 2 schools that are applying for a share of those funds. And so we've already begun to find areas where we perhaps didn't have an appetite for some of that language, but we figured out how to capitalize on it during the interim. We're talking about a symbolic gesture that is spending tax dollars that is unlikely to have a real return. And Mr. Colon is correct. The process that our country is founded on to address bad legislation is to propose amendments to that legislation. And our time will be better spent, our $6,000 will be better spent looking at what we can draft in a proposed bill or series of bills to fix issues within this legislation that have a negative impact on the school district of Manatee County. And that's the most efficient way to approach it. And the timing of it, it's the most effective way, I believe, to approach it. And I just, am not willing to spend tax dollars on a lawsuit that probably will not be resolved until after the legislature meets in January and February. So I ask my colleagues to vote no on this motion.
Okay, there you have it. We have all spoken. I can count to 3, and we didn't get there. So let's call the question here. All those in favor of approval of the School Board of Manatee County's participation in the litigation challenging House Bill 7069. Sorry, let me go back to my board. There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, wait, we need a motion in a second.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I would like to make a motion that we approve participation in the litigation challenging House Bill 7069.
What
Do I have a second?
What kind of participation?
I would move that we spend $6,000 of our legal budget to join the litigation challenging House Bill 7069.
Yeah, can you change that to supporting the litigation?
You would like?
That was my I made that motion. Would you second my motion?
Yeah, Mr. Minor, make your motion. That's fine.
Okay.
I think we're going to come to the same result no matter what. So go ahead.
Okay, I think so. We learned to count to three. So, my motion is that we allocate out of our legal budget, $6,000, in support of the litigation challenging House Bill 7069.
I will second that, and I will call the question. All those in favor of supporting Mr. Minor's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Minor, you need to move.
Okay.
And all those not in favor, please say no.
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 Press your red button. Motion's going to fail. 2 yes, 3 no. Motion fails. Okay, next item up. Again, this is another discussion that we have had multiple bites at the apple over. In our board work today, there are 2 different copies of the proposed resolution language that Mr. Dye drafted for us. Really, our question here is, and again, much like the previous item, we've all had multiple chances to speak, so I would like to keep this pretty short because I think we all, we know what's at stake. We know what we're going to ask for. It's very clearly written out in the resolution language. I think our question here that we need to meet out is not just the yes or no, but on what date. The important question is on what date are we going to hold this vote potentially? So kind of our consensus, well, we didn't really have a consensus per se. We had about 4 different opinions up here. Last time we spoke about this, Mr. Minor and I were in favor of a March of 2018 referendum. Mr. Minor, I don't want to speak for you, but I still feel that March of 2018 to hold this this millage vote would serve the district best. I still support asking the voters that we as a board are not raising taxes. We are just going to the voters of Manatee County and asking if they support this. So I don't find any harm in asking the voters for their approval. But again, I know we have a lot of different opinions, and I would support the resolution and the referendum, and I would support a March date. But I might be alone. I'm not sure. So who wants to go first on this one, or second?
Is that a special election?
This would be yes, it would be a special election. Depending on your numbers, it would cost about $250,000 to $300,000. If we did it in,
I would be a no.
If we did it in November, there would be no cost to the school district. But anyway, again, we've been around this block quite a few times, so I don't see anybody lit up to speak. So
I'll move.
Mr. Hopes, you got to your button first. Go ahead.
You're right. We've nearly exhausted our conversation around this issue. When we're talking about the budget, I mean, remember, Mrs. Messenger and I both had questions, which the superintendent did her best, I think, to respond to looking at administrative costs. But there was a caveat that we really couldn't do a comparison with the way it was done. I still believe there's a way for us to look at administrative cost. As I mentioned in the workshop this last legislative session, nearly $200 more in per pupil spending was allocated by the legislature, which equates to almost $10 million a year for the school district of Manatee County. The Department of Education has proposed in their budget to the governor an additional increase of $200 per pupil allocation for next year, which is an additional $10 million. So we're up to $20 million. We've got our applications for the funding for, I think, 2 of our schools that are eligible for the Schools of Hope, which is, anywhere from $2-3 million in additional funding. So we're up to $23 million in additional funding through the legislature without yet going to the taxpayers. And we've got a session coming up where there is a clear indication to to add additional funds into K through 12. While we have started a detailed plan and how we would spend the money, we were talking about needing $20 to $30 million more to be able to invest in teacher salary, extending school days. And the legislature, we haven't even received the money yet, but the legislature is already on a path, having already approved nearly what will be about $13 million more new dollars for us this fiscal year, and possibly another $10 to $15 million next fiscal year, which we will know by the first week of March when the legislative session ends. And I'm not comfortable with a special session and incurring a special election and incurring those costs. Therefore, if we still would have an option in November or August to go with a regular election at no additional cost to us. We will know where we stand in new funding from the legislature, and we can make a decision then. By then, I'm confident that working with our analytics staff, we will come up with a comparison that can withstand the test of significance of what percent of that per pupil spending we're spending in the classroom. We've had the discussions around teacher salaries and where we need to be, but we've got nearly 23 million new dollars a year that we're looking at, not incorporating an increase in property values, which should result in additional dollars. We've got a lot of rebuilding that's going to take place because of the hurricane. Those are sales tax dollars. And so I'm not comfortable moving forward with a referendum to call for a special election in March. And we have time to finish working through this process and having a detailed plan of how we're going to spend these new dollars and what the deficit is to get to our goals. We are just now really beginning to work as a team up here in defining those goals. And I think we can address this in the early spring after we know what the legislature has done with regards to funding. And we won't lose any time. Sure.
The only thing we'll lose by going in March, that money would be available for the during the following school year in early.
I get that with a special election
so
at
that's
$250,000 cost.
True, but we would by waiting from March to November, we would have to wait an extra school year to collect the money. But you make some very good points. Mr. Minor, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What Mr. Hopes just said is mostly true. You know, we expect that there will be more money made available by the legislature. It's proposed by the Board of Education. But that isn't just for Manatee County. That's for Sarasota County. That's for Hillsborough County. That's for every county in the state. We find ourselves on the wrong side of being competitive with our neighbors. Mr. Hope's comments don't address that. Do not address the fact that we have teachers, we have staff of all kinds that find the economic advantage of driving next door to Sarasota or next door to Hillsborough to be in their personal best interest, and they do that. They do that because in Sarasota's case, they have $55 million extra, for operations, more than we have, to pay for the teachers, pay for the principals, pay for other, staff that have been invested with much learning and training in this district, and then they're gone. Mr. Hope's arguments do not address that competitive advantage. Approving, having this election in this coming March, giving our community the opportunity, and that's what we're deciding tonight. Do we want to give our community the same chance that Sarasota voters, and they're going to be having an election this spring as well, the same opportunity to support, better public education. Does this board believe in giving that opportunity, to our community? If they approve it, it's not going to bring in the same amount as Sarasota because we don't have the same tax base as Sarasota. But it sure will make us more competitive than we are now. It will make it more likely that our great employees will stay with us. They will say, well, it's not that much difference for me to, be driving down to Sarasota. That's important. This extra money not only will help with salaries, it will, provide that extra money for programs, for the extra hour a day, for providing the education, the broader education that our community, I am told, wants to have for our children and our grandchildren, for our community to step up and meet that, challenge. We give them that opportunity, tonight to vote to have that on the ballot, to become more competitive, to have better programs for serving our community. Dr. Green, has provided, a vast amount of information showing how well we have been managing our money, how we have justified as an administration, as a district, through our efforts to make this a very well-run administration, for this community. We have a superintendent, he has inspired a staff, has inspired this community. And I think that come November, that the people of this community will say, yes, thank you for that opportunity. Yes, we support our schools. Yes, we want to have the best schools in the state of Florida. Mr. Hopes had talked about that when he came on. You don't get it by standing still. You get it by moving forward, giving the community an opportunity to fund the best schools. You don't put it off. You don't wait for the legislature to add funds for all schools. You say, we're going to support our children. We're going to support our staff. We're going to make this the best school in the school district in the state of Florida. And we do it by tonight voting, to give our community that opportunity to do just what Mr. Hopes said he wanted to do when he came on. We don't sit still. We don't say, well, let's see what the legislators are going to do. We take the lead in providing the best education. Mr. Chair, I support wholeheartedly giving our community that opportunity. I think we can do no less than that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Just
Mr. Hopes, and then I want to go to
quick rebuttal. Mr. Myers, I haven't closed the door on it, but what you're talking about is a special election. You hold a special election because the outcome of the election is nearly wholly dependent on the get out the vote. And so if you want to give the voters an opportunity to voice their opinion, it would not be in a special election in March. It would be in a general election when you have the highest turnout. And what I was recommending is that we don't have to decide tonight on a November election. But I think what we're talking about, at least a couple of us, is not having a special election. I am all for us looking at exactly what we need to fund and bringing it forward to the largest electorate in the county that we know will come out. And that's not in a special election in March. That's all.
Mr. Chair, may I respond to that?
Yep, and then
Okay.
go to Mrs.
Sarasota doesn't buy that argument. I don't either. I think that when you have an election that's focused on one thing, you're going to have people informed about that. You're not going to have 20 things on the ballot. And I think that if we want the voters to take something serious about an issue, then you do it in a special election. That's what this is about. Yes, it may cost $250,000, but the return over 4 years, at maybe $30 million apiece, $33 million probably. 4 times 33 is what? $142 million. Going to make this the best school district in the state of Florida. A special election is the best way for this community, focused on that one issue, to decide do they really want to go forward, as everybody is telling me, and you have told me as well? You want to make it number one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Okay. We're trying to get the three. We got you and me so far. I appreciate your passion. Mr. Cologne, Mrs. Messenger?
Sure. All right. I think I've said from the beginning that I really strongly believe that increasing the school day really would benefit our students greatly. And that comes from just personal experience where I worked at a school where the day was increased and it made a huge difference to those kids. So I words cannot express how much I support that. And I don't believe that that increase of the school day is going to happen unless we have this referendum. I don't believe that if there is an increase, which the legislature will more than likely give, that comes along with the students that we then have to pay for, because it's a per pupil number. So when we get more students to get that money, it's going towards those more students and the more teachers that we need necessarily and those other types of things. So I don't think that money will be able to be set aside purely for increasing the school day. Perhaps some of it will be able to add, but it won't be that large pot of money that we can use for that. I just don't see that happening because there's other increases that we're going to have to pay for with that additional money. I mean, we all know the cost of power is going up, the cost of, there's just so many other things. So when it comes down to it, I'm just here to support whatever's best for our kids. I was a student here in Manatee County, and I felt like I got a wonderful education, and I want that for my daughter. She's 2 years old, and that's what I want. And I think all parents and everybody in the community wants that. And I want to support our teachers and our staff as well, but even they have a common goal, and that's the students. So what's best for the students? A longer school day, STEM teachers, highly qualified teachers, and they're only going to be highly qualified and stay with us if we can be competitive. We spent weeks looking at the budget. And like I said, I haven't seen a big pot of money that we could use to get those things, all of those things in totality, including improving our fund balance. So after the presentation of the plan, it's clear that the students will benefit. And since that's why I'm here, I am for this referendum. I'm excited that there's an employee that's here tonight, and he helped convince me that March is the way to go. I don't like spending additional money on this referendum, but I do believe that if we share with the community the academic benefits that this could truly offer our community, that March is the right time to do it because we could benefit directly next year if it passes. You got a big smile on your face, Mr. Kennedy.
We got the three.
I do support a March referendum.
Thank you, Mrs. Messenger. Mr. Cologne.
Okay. You already know how I feel about this. You have special elections in March because less people will show up. That's a fact. Snowbirds are gone. A lot of people aren't here. The largest employer in the county is what? School board. Employees, of course, I'm not denying them the right to a raise. We're getting more money from the legislature. That's going to help. I noticed that on my tax bill, 3 lines of it go to the school board. Okay? 3 lines. We actually, I think, bring in more money than the county commission, don't we? Yeah. Sarasota, who they love to compare us to, does lots of things different than we do. Lots of things. They had their original referendum in March as well, so they could get more money. And they were very deliberate, and they even said so. We're holding this referendum now because we know the snowbirds aren't here to vote against it. It was out there. Everybody talked about it. It was like an open joke. That's one of the reasons I'm not in favor of this. I don't understand what the rush is. We're trying to get some things changed in the last education bill. We haven't even tried that yet. Sarasota also has less students than we do. That's another fact. So, of course, they get more millage. They get more money in their sales tax, but they have less students to take care of. So, of course, they have more money to spend on other things. It's another thing nobody wants to talk about. We spend a lot of money on health care. Heck, we have people who smoke who pay the same thing as people who don't smoke. I mean, Sarasota got rid of that 10 years ago. So if we're following Sarasota, we should be doing the same things. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is just raising taxes just to raise taxes. And I'm not going to get behind that, especially having a special election where no one will show up. If you truly want the county to vote on it, have it when everybody's here, when everybody can have input, when all the stakeholders can make a decision. And that's how I feel about it.
Thank you, Mr. Plum. As always, diverse opinions, but delivered respectfully, and we will vote here and move on to our next item, and that's how a healthy board works. And I appreciate that from all of my board colleagues. Mr. Minor, you electronically made a motion. Could you vocalize that, please?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve the resolution providing that we have an election referendum in this coming March is set forth to ask our voters if they would approve 1 mil for operation expenses of the school district of Manatee County, Florida.
Okay, I will second that, which I thought I did, but I will do now. Yeah, I did. Okay. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Plum?
Don't you think you should put special election in that? See, this is not a regular election. This is a special election that we are going to pay for. I think the voters are entitled to know that.
Mr. Chair, I'll stand by my motion.
I'm
think
sure
it
you
need-
will.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need to include that language in the motion itself. But okay, board members, any other comments? All right, let's see the question. All those in favor of Mr. Minor's motion, I'll just keep it simple. All those in favor of Mr. Minor's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
Press your red button. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you, everybody. Okay, this is going to bring us to another repeat item. This is the approval. Oh, Dr. Green, go ahead.
Yes. I recommend approval of amended agreement and board declaration that transfers bus 542 to the center of Anna Maria Island, Incorporated, no financial impact.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cologne. Do we have a second?
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay,
And I would second it with the understanding that we have a representation and a yes answer from Mr. Serena that he's representing that the bus that we're talking about is no longer suitable for school district use and obsolete, and continued use of which is uneconomical, inefficient, and serves no useful function to the school district and does not contribute to the district's educational program. Mr. Serena, is the answer yes to that?
Mr. Minor, I'm going to redirect that to Dr. Green, please.
Dr. Green, is that correct? Thank you.
Mr. Minor, as I stated, we do not put any declaration on anything that we surplus. We surplus hundreds of items. If the board allows us this item by your own policy that indicates I must bring anything we want to surplus to the board. If it's in a surplus condition, it is simply stating that the school board does not have need of this item, and this item may be valuable to someone else, and when we are giving to nonprofit, we are allowed to surplus it.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Green, is that a yes?
Mr. Minor, I'm not going to say that because it is useful to someone else. That does not mean it's.
The question is it useful to us? And the statutes say that there has to be, that finding and that representation. I'm asking staff to make that representation.
We have find that this bus does not serve any purpose for the school district.
Okay, thank you very much. I take that as a yes, and I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Minor, could you hit second on your screen? Mr. Hopes.
And I think that's on one page, the first page of the agreement. But I recall my motion to amend it at our last meeting that its use be limited to transporting School District of Manatee County's students to the after-school program. And I don't see that in this agreement.
Dr.
This agreement has amended. It was amended that now this agreement, we're not getting the bus. We are simply giving the bus away. That's what this amendment is doing. That we are no longer going to service it. We're no longer going to take care of it. We are giving it to them as is, and now that center has the full authority to do the things that they would need to do to that school bus.
So that's sort of entirely different than what was brought to us last
And
meeting.
that's why it was brought back, before the board.
Okay, I am seconding, the motion.
Michelle, can you reverse that out? Or we could just voice vote this and fix it later?
Or should I? Did you have me down as making the motion?
Yeah.
Yes, but we can change that.
Okay, so let's just voice vote and we'll fix it.
Okay. Is the chair moving it? You made the
Actually,
chair.
Mr. Colon made the original motion and you made the
Well, I
second.
made the original.
Okay, I made the second.
Yeah. Mrs. Messer?
I just want clarity for myself before I vote on this. Because this was not something that was there when we had the board briefing, and I want to make sure I fully understand. So the agreement before said that the bus would be reverted back to us, that we would do the maintenance, but they would pay for it, those types of things. I don't see it in this agreement. Do those things still exist, or is this going to just replace all of those things that we had discussed?
That is correct. The bus is now given as is, and it's their bus. And they must be responsible for how they get it serviced, how they take care of everything, and it doesn't revert back to us. It's their bus now. That's what this agreement was brought forward.
Maybe this is simple of me, but why was it changed?
Mr.
May I address that?
No,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr.
I need
Heidelbaum
clarity.
needed to address it.
Well,
I'm
to
sorry.
begin with,
because
we're
board
talking
members
about
that do.
two issues. One was offering it to a charter school first, which was
Mhm.
satisfied. It was offered in Manatee School of the Arts and other charter schools. The other issue is really liability. And that was an issue raised that we don't want to have any possibility of liability. Therefore, when it was brought to our attention, hey, you guys may have done it right, but we think you can do it better, we changed the agreement to protect ourselves against any potential liability, even with the right of reversion. So should there be an accident or any type of calamity, we don't want to be sued later on. So therefore, that amendment struck out certain language which we liked, however, cleaned it up and made it so that the district would be able to wash their hands thereafter. For a bus, and I will make my only comment, a bus of very limited use. It cannot go very far.
Mr. Hopes?
So since we've changed it, why aren't we just selling it to them for a nominal fee? Why are we just giving it to them?
It's $10.
Well, that's a little bit. I mean, I think we heard that it was worth between $2,500 and $3,500 or something like that.
It's all value, Mr. Hopes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it would exceed the value of this bus.
I think originally, if I remember correctly, the bus was not suitable for transporting students over any long distance. And since we have schools that are out in Duet and far-flung around the district, it wasn't a good idea to keep a bus like this in service. But it would be suitable for short-term trips, and that's the reason we were getting rid of it, if I'm correct, Superintendent.
You are.
All right, so it's the cost of waiving our liability.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay.
$10.
All right. Anybody else? It's the most famous bus in Manatee County history. We have a motion, we have a second.
They can paint it in day glow.
Something.
They can enter
So we
Maria
can
Island.
identify it when it goes to a
It's Anna
popular
Maria
area.
Island.
Put in the school bus demolition derby if they want to. Okay. All those in favor of the amended agreement and board declaration, please signify by saying aye.
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 And press your green button. The bus is gone by a 5-0 vote. Okay, that is going to bring us to, that's all of our items. Board members, any agenda requests or workshop requests? Do you have one?
No. Well, it's at the next, I'm requesting a board workshop normally, in the next week. Normally, we wouldn't have a board workshop, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we were having a board workshop, because it's not a normal, normally we would go into the chamber, but we're having a workshop.
Mr. Hopes, talked to me earlier, said he's going to be in transit. One thing we could do.
I've been appointed to a state committee that's only meeting 3 times to prepare a report for the legislature, and it was scheduled during that afternoon because we didn't have a board workshop.
Gotcha. Given we had a shade session earlier today, I would like for us to continue that shade meeting about contract negotiations next week. Is there a way you could dial in? Because we could get you in remotely.
That statewide committee's meeting from 1:30 to like 4.
Okay, so no. They'll be on top of each other. Board members, I mean, if we have a consensus to go. Well, it just makes sense on Tuesday because we're going to be here for the regular meeting.
Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Friday?
Well, it depends on the availability of the consultant. We did confirm the consultant available for Tuesday.
For Tuesday.
Now we're having consultants.
So there's moving parts here. Okay, I mean, I'm fine with staying Tuesday. Mr. Hopes, I'm sorry you won't be here, and this came up suddenly, but.
Monday?
Well, I mean, sorry. Dr. Green, if we could get the people in place that we need on Monday or Wednesday. Actually, we can't do it Monday because we would have to publish.
Yes.
Oh, we already did. Wednesday is so we can't do Wednesday. Okay. Oh, yeah, of course we already did.
Thursday?
Yeah.
There's 2 more days left.
Friday is not good for me, so that gets us down to 1 day. Like I said, I would, no offense to Mr. Hopes, I'd prefer that we just stay Tuesday because we've already got it published. It is an
Yeah, Tuesday's just a workshop, not the executive session. That can be another day. Remember we said the workshop was going to be lengthy and therefore should not have an executive session. Now, you want an executive session on another day next week, we can have that conversation, but I need to get, it needs to be later so we can get it published.
I misspoke.
So,
let's side that, back burner the shade meeting thing for now. Mr. Minor, Gina, Mrs. Messenger, are you okay with staying at Tuesday
For the workshop?
for the workshop?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Minor? Okay, so we'll keep it at Tuesday at 3 p.m.
would you like an executive session on Friday?
Well, as long as we're talking about it.
I mean,
Board
'cause
members?
I have to get it published, so
This
Yeah.
while
Friday or
we're,
next
our
week?
next Friday, that would be the
Executive session on
22nd.
Collective bargaining.
On the 22nd or the 29th?
22nd.
No, that's this
That's
Friday.
this Friday.
Oh, that's this
The
Friday?
29th.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
well,
can't
now
do
I'm on a.
I can't do the 22nd.
Okay.
29th is the Children's Services Advisory Board retreat, and it's all day. So I cannot on the 29th.
How about the 28th, Thursday the 28th for collective bargaining?
If it's in the
We have a board
afternoon.
briefing that day.
Yeah, it's
That's fine.
briefing, but we'll
Michelle
take that.
says no.
No.
SLT and board briefings for the next agenda are all day Thursday.
What if we did the board briefings at another time?
You may read your packet in your entire meeting.
Okay.
That's up to you all. I
So,
mean, the,
How about you
we
limit
can still have SLT, but if you did it Thursday, like 2 o'clock?
Thursday at 2. Yeah, Thursday, September 28th at 2 p.m. Shade meeting on collective bargaining.
Okay.
Okay. Put it on the calendar. All right. That is, sorry, let me just do one final call. Agenda requests or workshop requests? Hearing none, let's move on. Ms. Petcher, for legal update. And by the way, thank you for being here tonight. Since Mr. Dye could not be here, we appreciate you filling in.
Oh, no problem whatsoever. I need to report that this afternoon, an order from Judge Hayworth was received in the Canaan versus the School Board of Manatee County, Rick Mills and Troy Pumphrey case. It was on a very long motion to dismiss. There were 15 counts in the amended complaint. The motion to dismiss was granted for all but two of the three of the counts. Count 1, the motion to dismiss was denied. That was a negligence count. Count 9, interference with contractual relationship as it applies to Mr. Mills. That motion to dismiss was denied. Count 10, interference with a contractual relationship with respect to Mr. Pumphrey's. That motion to dismiss was denied. All the other motions to dismiss were granted by the court, some with prejudice, some without prejudice, which would allow leave to amend the complaint. So I think on the first round, the school district attorneys, I believe it was Aaron Jackson, did an outstanding job on behalf of the school district. I sent a copy of the order to the superintendent and to Mr. Teitelbaum earlier today, and I assume it can be distributed to those of you who wish to review it. And then I also received today, I did put a request to all the school district attorneys of all 67 counties to obtain copies of their interlocal agreements or memorandum of understandings with respect to how those districts handle cooperative agreements for funding of the hurricane-hardened schools for hurricane shelters. I have received my first one from Pinellas County. I have expectations to receive them from some of the other counties that have done them recently. So we will have some format to when Mr. Serrana gets ready to have some start discussions with the county on that particular issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Ms. Petrov, just to be clear, there was 3 counts that still are standing. Has the school board, I just want to make sure I understand you, count 1, the school board is still
Yes, that was a negligence
named
account
count 1.
versus School Board of Manatee County, which addresses negligent supervision and that type of thing.
And then the other 2, were we still named on the other 2 counts as well? Or is that, we are?
The count 9, I believe, was an individual claim, tortious interference with contractual relationships. Those were against individual defendants.
So the board is not named in those counts?
No, but the board does have, I understand, at least with Mr. Mills, the board has some continuing obligation to defend.
Okay, thank you very much. Instructional update, Ms. Saunders.
Yes, I wanted to make you aware that at the next board meeting, it should be on the agenda, I hope it got published in time, that we will begin the process of the rezoning of the high schools. So we will bring before the board the timeline that we have laid out for your approval. But we have begun to go speak to the 3 high schools and their SAC committees and faculty members so that they're aware of the whole process, so that they see the geographical location and they understand what our board policy says, where they have a voice and they're a part of the decision making. So we have began those conversations. We will talk more about it in the next board meeting, and we are hoping that we can have some of those decisions for the high schools finalized before Christmas break. Yeah. Well, because right after that, we'll follow with the middle school and the elementary. So it would be optimistic if we could have all of those decisions made this year, so everybody will have far advance notice of where their students will be going the following year when the schools open up. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Serrano, operations.
Just briefly, I don't want to take away anyone else's thunder as far as thanking everyone for the participation in the Hurricane Irma shelters, but it was indeed a pleasure to serve with the superintendent, Ms. Saunders, during that time. Their exemplary leadership skills really were evident, and the compassion that they had for everyone in the community was just outstanding. A big thank you to Publix. Publix was going to close at 8 o'clock that one evening. They decided to close at noon. They had all these fresh baked goods and food that they distributed out throughout our county schools, and that was greatly appreciated. National Guard, again, were just awesome in their presence, and the governor really made good on his promise to get them out here. And the men and women that served and stayed with us at the schools 24/7 during that time was wonderful. Same goes for the sheriff's office. They were great to have them available to us. Many doctors did volunteer to stay in the shelters and give of their time, as well as nurses. Our own school nurses, as well as medical staff throughout the county, stepped up. I didn't anticipate that, and that was a great opportunity. Our food service personnel just went overboard on feeding everyone. It was just an awesome opportunity to see the servant leadership hearts that all of them had and how they all stepped up. And then a big thank you to our maintenance and operation people during the recovery. We wouldn't have got our schools open on Monday if it wasn't for them working relentlessly from Wednesday all the way through Sunday, getting our schools together. So I'm really proud to be serving with them in the Division of Operations and Business Services. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Dr. Green.
Well, Mr. Serrano pretty much thanked everyone that I was going to thank, but truly, it truly was a community collaborative effort. I mean, Manatee County should be very proud of not only just the school system, but all the public servants who what we do for not only our children, but when law enforcement, they never left us. They made it very easy to go talk to a 6'5", 6'5" man that may weigh 300 pounds and say, you're not going to do, and them standing behind me as I'm telling them what you're not going to do. I didn't have any, oh, yes, ma'am, okay. That made that so much easier. But I do have to share something. The first night we were at Manatee High School, and Manatee High School was servicing mostly Salvation Army, evacuees, the county. If people could just get to somewhere, they would just pick them up and bring them to Manatee High School. And many of these individuals were bringing everything they had. I mean, they had big bags, and we had this one little lady. She was on a bus, and she was in her night clothes, and she had all these bags, and she had this huge crate. And the principal goes on the bus, and he comes back. I can't say everything he said to me. He said, but I'm not taking that cat off that bus. And I thought, what the heck is it? I mean, so the person brings this big box. I look inside, and I'm telling you, it could have been maybe a miniature bobcat or something, but that thing was huge. And Mr. Serrana saw the thing, and he froze like a statue. He did not move. He just looked at Miss Saunders and I. And so we're each looking, and I'm looking at Miss Saunders. Because the little old lady said, oh, you can't, you got to carry it because he might get out. And as soon as she said, might get out, I looked at Miss Saunders and said, Miss Saunders, you get the cat. I'll get all her other stuff. And Mr. Serrana never moved from that spot. He was like frozen in time, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So I said, how about go charge my phone up in the car? He snatched my phone out of my hand and got in the car and never got back out. So Miss Saunders was the hero. She carried the bobcat into the facility to...
It was a kitty cat.
That cat was huge. It just didn't want it to get loose. But I'm sure everyone who served and has many stories just like that. The power of humor and laughter can get you through a whole lot of things. And I think we laughed a lot that weekend to overcome this horrendous storm that was possibly headed in our direction. So at the next board meeting, we will be giving out gratitude awards to the Sheriff Department, our police department, and we're hoping to find a representative for the National Guard to let them know how much we appreciate them. So now that we're back in school, I know parents want to know one thing. When are you making up those days? Well, we did receive information from the Commissioner Stewart today that we can apply to waive 2 of the days. So out of the 6 days, we will only have to make up 4 of those days. In the famous words of Mr. Kennedy, he stated, oh, the hurricane days and the week of Thanksgiving, we're sticking with those days. So we're
There was a question mark.
Really? I thought you said it with such, I thought it was an exclamation point. We're sticking with those days. So
it was a question mark.
we will have to make up 4 days. Currently on the calendar, it has the week of Thanksgiving as 3 hurricane makeup days. The waiver also indicates something about teacher work days, that we have to utilize those work days, so we will need to go through our calendar. But before the end of the week, we will give a recommendation for the next board meeting to be on the next board meeting. But we are not, we will have to use the days during Thanksgiving. We don't have any other days to go pull from. But again, let me explain why some districts can wait. If you have 90 days in your semester, you should have more than enough hours to meet the high school credit requirement. We do not have 90 days in our first semester. We have 87. Therefore, we meet it, but we just barely meet. We're like 2 hours over the required number of hours. So whenever we miss a day, we have to make that day up unless the Department of Education sends an application for waiver. Last year, there wasn't a waiver. We did not meet the hours, therefore we had to make them up. If you have more hours than required, the superintendent does have the authority to say, well, I'm going to waive X amount of days because it keeps them in line of the 135-hour rule. And when you have semester, you have to divide that by 2. So it's really like 67 hours, 67.5 hours that our high school students have to be in what we call seat time so that they can meet the credit requirement by law. So that was the explanation about makeup days. But I do want to say thank you to each of you who, whether you came out to visit at a at a shelter or you actually stayed at a shelter with us. We truly appreciate everything that our community did. We had a lot of conversation with the EOC, and we're having a debriefing tomorrow with our principals. You know, our prayer is that never there'll be another 100 years before we have to open up all 24 shelters. But if we do, we've learned some lessons, and there are some things that we think we can do better. And there's things that we were stunned that we came up with those ideas during that time. And we want to make sure that when we continue that training with our principals, that we have that. One of the other things that people don't know is that you're supposed to be Red Cross trained before you can actually run a shelter. But we train our principals, and so they qualify for running being shelter managers. The volunteers, they have to have someone who's trained to be on site with them when they are volunteering in our shelters, and that's some of the things we have to address. We want people to help, but there's also things, unfortunately, we have to look at liability. How do we make sure we protect not everybody in the facility, but also protect the school district and our role because we have been designated as mass housing. That's our role. So we are sort of certified to be there and do that. And when people want to help, we have to just make sure we have our ducks in a row and things covered so that we protect them as a volunteer as well as the school district. So.
All right, let's move on to our board comments. And Mr. Minor, we'll start with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last night, I was buying some groceries at Publix at Westgate. And there was a gentleman in line ahead of me, and he must have purchased, a dozen hot dog buns and a lot of hot dogs. And he said to the cashier, it's for a birthday party. And he started talking a little bit with the cashier about he had had some kind of wound or injury, but he wasn't really complaining. He seemed to be maybe about 28 years old. And it came out that this gentleman, spoke a half a dozen languages, Farsi included, the Philippine language, Tuolog, and he had been a trainer of special forces and of the kind, but he had incurred several injuries. And out in the parking lot, I began talking with him and thanking him for his service to our country. And he talked about the loss of men that he had in Afghanistan in service to our country. And I'm thinking, this is quite an amazing young man. And I asked him what he was doing now, and turns out he's, I'm a student at Manatee Technical College. And in welding, we were talking about welding program this afternoon in a workshop. And he also helps down at Manatee Technical College. And as an employee, and I said, geez, this is the kind of person I certainly want on our team, and he is on our team. And I said, well, whose birthday is it that you celebrate? Well, it's his birthday. He's having a birthday party for all of his friends down there. And I said, this guy is amazing. He turns out he's from New York, but he's here now. His last name is Gray. I think it's Brendan Gray. And happy birthday, Brendan. This is his birthday. Yeah. And you may know him. But I'm thinking, what a wonderful district this is that attracts such dedicated, wonderful people. And it was so evident during Irma's visit to us. It makes you cry, made me cry. It just the response that, you know, our district had, you know, to putting our arms collectively around this community and providing not only shelter but comfort and love, and it just said, you know, this theme that we developed, and I don't know who deserves the great credit for it, but the We Manatee, and it started to make me think about, you know, the Pittsburgh Pirates when Willie Stargell was on it. They had this theme that really united Pittsburgh and maybe the country, and that it was We Are Family, and our theme was We Are Manatee. And it's that spirit, you know, that was embodied in this young man, you know, who had a lot of injuries, but he was making something not just for himself and being good to himself, but to others. And he embodied the spirit of We Manatee. It was such a privilege, you know, to talk with him last night. Such a privilege, you know, to be a part of We Manatee. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mrs. Messenger?
Happy birthday, Brendan.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but extending the school day will also help with hurricane days.
That's what I was thinking.
Correct?
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Just putting that out there.
Getting creative.
It's ours.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Just want to put that out there. I just really want to reiterate basically what Mr. Serrano said. I'm grateful for all of the volunteers that were in Manatee County. So grateful for Dr. Green and her leadership, and all the staff and principals and other volunteers that came out and supported the community at the shelters, and the roosters and goats and ferrets and bobcats apparently. I don't know, miniature bobcat. Didn't know that existed. That's cool. I hope that everyone stayed safe. We lost power, which is really fun with a 2-year-old. And I hope that people are regaining power and supplies and making their way back home. And that's it. Just thank you and gratitude.
Thank you, Gina. Mr. Epps?
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate, it was quite the experience. But what we witnessed was We Manatee, and under the superintendent's leadership and Ms. Saunders, Mr. Serrano, and others, we had the opportunity to. And Mr. Taiwan, a great picture of you carrying in bags in the parking lot if you haven't seen it yet. But Mr. Clone and I started Saturday morning with the governor at the EOC, and then went to Manatee High School and a few other places, and we ended up at Lakewood Ranch High School, and the superintendent. In fact, most of us were there at one time or another. Mr. Little, left his wife and young children at home, and just did an admiral's job at maintaining composure. But what my wife Rhonda and our youngest, who's a junior at USF St. Pete, who washed dishes for lunch and dinner and breakfast for 700 people and didn't complain. He actually acted like he was enjoying it. But we saw a community come together, and we saw the school district of Manatee County at all levels really serving. And it was like being on a cruise. The superintendent was on the loudspeaker calling the guests and informing them, and it was not quite a spa, but no. What we did is I think we really showed what the school district is about, and it was just an almost an undescribable experience. I mean, our teenagers would say awesome, because we saw a community come together, and new friendships were made, and people had an opportunity to serve, and it was really an amazing experience that we hope we don't go through again. Mm-hmm. But we know that we were able to serve 25,000 people and 8,000 pets of all assortment, and really met challenges and adversity as a team. and we all rolled up our sleeves and did what it took. And I just, am so proud to be part of this team and to be part of the community, and really thank Superintendent for all her service and leadership, because it was exemplary. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hobbs. Mr. Clone.
Yeah, I also want to thank all our staff, because not only did they do a great job, but I know they were exhausted afterwards. I only spent a little time going around to a couple of shelters. One I will mention is Braden River, because the food director there had his entire family there. Kids, I said, well, does your son go here? He said, no, but he's here with his brother, and his wife was there as well. I mean, it was a family affair in the food service area, and that was great. They made sure that they helped everyone, that the lines were orderly. I want to commend the people of Manatee County, because there were no fights. There wasn't any arguing. People stood in line and waited for their food. People helped people get out of their cars, older people, disabled people, to get inside the facility. Car horns were going off and alarms, and people would, instead of people screaming about it, they'd go out and try and find the person whose car it was. It's those little things that annoy people in stressful situations. Yet nobody was acting annoyed or acting up, and that's very important. I want to also thank the National Guard and our first responders, because the Guard was out there directing traffic in so people would get to the right parking lot. At first I thought they were junior ROTC, and then I went over and I said, that guy's a real soldier. It was great. And I also want to say that I hope FEMA gives us our money from last year so we don't have to wait for it till next year. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cologne. I'm not sure really what else is left to say. We did see the school district and our people, our admins, our teachers, our AFSCME, our custodians and food service people. I mean, it was just it was really, and beyond the school district, the county and all the agencies that came to support us and help us and help our, not only our own residents, but many residents from outside of Manatee County. You saw a lot of selflessness over this past week. And, we, at times and historically, there's been, there has been negativity, but, to me, and I've been here since 2004, this was probably, and I wasn't at a shelter. I evacuated with my Bobcat and Lisa. But this was really, as long as I've lived in Manatee County, like really a high spot and a bright spot for this county and for the school district. And it's already been said 17 times, but I'll say it again. I just want to thank our people who either left their family behind or brought their family to a shelter to be with them. We got tested and we answered. We certainly answered the call. That said, I just want to say a quick thing about the calendar. Well, I don't want to say hopefully, but I just want to reassure our families and our employees that we will have an answer by the next school board meeting, so people can start making plans. I also want to remind the board members received a couple of emails, 2 or 3, but some folks wish we didn't have to make them up, but I want us to also keep in mind we have employees who don't get paid unless they come to work, and if we don't make days up, then they don't get paid. And a lot of these folks who are in that situation, they're living paycheck to paycheck. So I think it's important to keep some of our hardest working and lowest paid employees in mind when we do the calendar. Anyway, that was just a kind of a housekeeping. I just wanted to bring up those emails we got regarding that topic. Mr. Kwon?
Just a quick thing. Say your prayers for Mexico City. They just got hit by a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, and 29 buildings have already collapsed.
Oh, my God.
So hopefully it's not too bad, but that doesn't sound good.
Okay. Folks, that's going to conclude our meeting. Board colleagues, as always, it's an honor. Even in disagreement, we are respectful. Thank you, everybody out there, for the past couple of weeks and beyond. Have a good night, everybody.